I am a Filipino, inheritor of a glorious past, hostage to the uncertain future. As such, I must prove myself equal to a twofold task. The task of meeting my responsibility to the past, and the task of performing my obligation to the future. I sprung from a hardy race, child many generations removed of ancient Malayan pioneers. Across the centuries, the memory comes rushing back to me, of brown-skinned men putting out to sea in ships that were as frail as their hearts were stout. Over the sea, I see them come, borne upon billowing wave and whistling wind, carried upon the mighty swell of hope. Hope in the free abundance of new land that was to be their home and their children's forever. This land they sought and found, every inch of shore that their eyes first set upon, every hill and mountain that beckoned with them with a green and purple invitation, every mile of rolling plain that their view encompassed, every river and lake that promised a plentiful living, and the fruitfulness of commerce is a hallowed spot to me. By the strength of their hearts and hands, by every right of law and human and divine, this land is all the appurtenances thereof, the black and fertile soil, the seas and lakes and rivers teeming with the fish, the forests with their inexhaustible wealth of wildlife and timber, the mountains with their bowls swollen with minerals. The whole of this rich and happy land has been for centuries without number the land of my fathers. This land I receive and trust from them, and in trust will pass it to my children, and so on until the world is no more. I am a Filipino. In my blood runs the immortal seed of heroes, seed that flowered down the centuries in deeds of courage and defiance. In my veins yet pulses the same hot blood that sent Lapu-Lapu to battle against the first invader of this land, that nerved Lacandula in the battle against the alien foe, that drove Diego Silang and the Gohoy into rebellion against the foreign oppressor. That seed is immortal. It is the self-same seed that flowered in the heart of Jose Rizal that morning in Bagumbayan, when a volley of shots put an end to all that was mortal of him and made his spirit deathless forever. The same seed that flowered in the hearts of Bonifacio in Balintawak, of Gregorio del Pilar at Tirid Pass, of Antonio Luna at Kalumpit, at the bloomed in flowers of frustration in the sad heart of Emilio Aguinaldo at Palanan, and yet burst forth royally again in the proud heart of Manuel L. Quezon when he stood at the last on the threshold of ancient Malacanang Palace in the symbol of the act of possession and racial vindication. The seed I bear within me is an immortal seed. It is a mark of my manhood, the symbol of my dignity as a human being. Like the seeds that were once buried in the tomb of Tutankhamen many thousand years ago. It shall grow and flower and bear fruit again. It is the insignia of my race, and my generation is but a stage in an unending search of my people for freedom and happiness. I am a Filipino, child of the marriage of the East and the West. The East, with its languor and mysticism, its passivity and endurance, was my mother, and my sire was the West, that came thundering across the seas with the cross and the sword and the machine. I am of the East, an eager participant in its spirit and in its struggles for liberation from the imperialist yoke. But I know that the East must awake from its centuried sleep, shake off the lethargy that has bound his limbs, and start moving where destiny awaits. For too, I am of the West, and vigorous people of the West, people destroyed forever the peace and quiet that once were ours. I can no longer live, a being apart from those whose world now trembles to a roar of bomb and cannon shot. I cannot say of matter of universal life and death, of freedom and slavery for all mankind, that it concerns me not. For no man and no nation is an island, but a part of a main. There is no longer any East and West, only individuals and nations making those momentous choices which are hinges upon which history revolves. At the vanguard of progress in this part of the world I stand, a forlorn figure in my eyes, and some, but not one, defeated and lost. For I, through the thick, interlancing branches of habit and custom above me, I have seen the light of the sun, and I know that it is good. I have seen the light of justice and equality and freedom. My heart has been lifted by the vision of democracy, and I shall not rest until my land and my people shall have been blessed by these, beyond the power of any man or nation to subvert or destroy. I am a Filipino, and this is my inheritance. What pledge shall I give that I may prove worthy of my inheritance? I shall give the pledge that has come, ringing down to the corridors of the centuries, that it shall be compounded of the joyous cries of Malayan forebears when they first saw the contours of this land loom before their eyes, of the battle cries that resounded in every field of combat from Mactan to Tirid Pass, of the voices that my people, when they sing, land in the land of the morning, child of the sun returning, near shall invaders trample thy sacred shore. Out of the lush green of these 7,000 isles, out of the heartstrings of 16 million people, all vibrating to one song, I shall weave the mighty fabric of my pledge. Out of the songs the firers at sunrise when they go to labor, and in the fields, out of the sweat of the hard-bitten pioneers in Malig and Coronadal, out of the silent endurance of stevedores at the pyres, and the ominous grumbling of peasants in Pampanga, out of the first cries of babies newly born and the lullabies that mothers sing, out of the crashing of gears and the whine of turbines in the factories, out of the crunch of plowshares upturning in the earth, out of the limitless patience of teachers in the classrooms and doctors in the clinics, out of the tramp of soldiers marching, I shall make the pattern of my pledge. I am a Filipino, born to freedom. I shall not rest until freedom shall have been added to my inheritance. For myself, for my children, and my children's children forever. I Am a Filipino by Carlos P. Romulo.